Oh, you've been hanging around Donald Trump,
Oh my
Patty.
gosh, never. But I was listening, driving in. Just ripping.
Okay, it is 3:30, so I will open the meeting. First, before we get into any business, I'd like to introduce Ed Morris, our new town manager.
Hi, Ed.
You know, you have to be here for at least a year, Ed, before we drop the new town manager.
I still use it.
Well, it's better than being the old town manager. Okay, approval of the draft minutes of January 4th, which Terry very graciously agreed to write.
I have, I think, a correction.
Okay,
I think I mentioned the website. Didn't I mention the website? Because you didn't pick it up, but I recall that that I mentioned the website being up to date, and Jack said something about looking into it. Does anybody else recall that?
I do remember we did talk about that a couple of times at different meetings, updating.
Did we come up with
information.
anything new at the Pat's meeting about the website? I know the town was supposed to.
No, I just, at the tail end of the meeting, I just said I had noticed that I couldn't find anything about the park, or the park data was
Out of date.
stale.
Yeah.
And it is, it's very
Mhm.
stale.
Yeah.
And Jack said he would look into it.
So need to add that we discussed, we need to add like a link from the town website to the park.
I just complained that the website was
Yeah.
out of date.
Yeah, Doug complained.
Yeah. and
okay.
Jack said
Once
he'd look
again, Doug complained.
No, that's an
Said
understandable
pointed
issue.
out. The-
Yes,
But it
I
is
will
outdated.
be more politically
Yeah,
correct.
we could definitely, there's a lot of good things that happened since the.
How do we go about, there's no real point person. Lisa does some, Rob Taylor does some, but maybe we need a specific person to be responsible. I had heard rumblings that when the assistant town clerk was hired, have they done that yet, Ed?
We've been trying.
I know you've been trying real hard.
I actually just reposted it today.
Okay,
to see if we
okay.
could Get some more.
So that
Wanna
was,
move on the minutes.
Is there any other
oh, yes,
corrections?
okay, sorry. I was just going to bring it up while you had brought it up, but we'll approve the minutes and then bring up the website.
Okay, I move we approve the minutes as corrected.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor?
So I'll
Okay.
just add that and then I'll send.
And
it
I
on
see
to-
David Buffet has joined us as well as Bridget LeBrew.
Meredith,
Yes,
I was just gonna tell you, so Elisa probably is your current point person where if you send things to her, she can add them to the page.
thank
So
you.
no problem.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Bridget. Okay, financial update. Review of monthly financial statements and land and water conservation match status.
Yeah, there has been no activity whatsoever over the past month in our finances. So the status is the same as it was at our previous meeting. That is to say, we have collected $500,000 in cash. We've spent 134 on the land and 272 on the pavilion and some other things. We've spent a total amount of 414,000. We have 86,000 in cash, and we have contingent claims from the Northern Borders Regional Commission and from the Land and Water Resources Fund.
On the northern borders, it's my understanding that Rob discovered that there was $1,000 that was still out there that we could access.
Yeah, so we need to send them an invoice on one of our projects.
Okay,
We could do it,
I have a suggestion before the end of the meeting about a bike rack. So
yeah, why don't we buy a bike rack with that money? It would be qualify, I'm sure. And so the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're still about $50,000 shy of meeting the match for the Land and Water Resources Fund grant. And that's kind of dried up too. I have been writing letters for Meredith's signature to foundations that I've discovered have been active in the Upper Valley, charitable foundations, because they, of course, can be the source of a good, generous donation if you meet their criteria. And
excuse me for a minute, Doug.
yes,
I didn't ask for someone, Terry, I'm looking at you to take minutes, please.
I got it.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to clear that.
and so the mystery about these foundations is Meredith writes the letter and then we never get a response, and it's very disheartening.
Well, we have heard from the Eastman Charitable Foundation. I mean, nothing positive yet, but he did call with some questions.
Yes, true. Some of them come through very nicely, but others we just never hear from. So with that in mind, I circulated a list of those to whom we have written recently, and to see if any of you knew anybody or knew some way to get through to them. And I haven't had, oh yes, I did have a
Yeah, Patty.
response. Patty responded to me that she knew the Reiches. Rouches. And so, but if any of the rest of you have any inside information about these foundations, it would be very helpful.
Or any source of,
In the
income.
meantime, another one that's on the list is the Couch Family Foundation. And I really blew that one. I was gonna file an application, and I emailed them to get some information about the application, and they turned me down.
Oh, before
Flat.
you even did the application.
Before he
I
even submitted.
I did the application.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's the life in the
nonprofit
solicitation.
world.
But Doug, I think actually with the Couch Foundation, that also, because now it's handled through their Boston office, it's like the local piece almost feels very far removed.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
That's where I'm thinking like a handwritten note, but I don't think they still even have a residence in Hanover to send it to the address that we have in one of your notes, had an address for them, but because also their foundation is so focused on childcare projects.
Right,
But also, we hope to use that, the park will be used by our kids in the local schools.
That was the approach he was
Yeah,
using.
exactly. So
I
maybe-
intended to put all that in the
Right.
application with your help.
They didn't give you a chance. So
But you're right, they live, the initial letter was to their home address, to the
Yeah.
two of them, their
Yeah.
home address, but
Yeah.
we never got a response.
And now I think with that, they just make it that pre-process of weeding people out.
Mhm.
So I think maybe that one might be also worth a note. Again,
What about the Hope
To reach out
Foundation?
to-
That's also sponsored by the Couch family. I
I
know
prefer-
Through
Hope
Hyper
isn't as big as Couch, but
Well, my recollection with the Hope Foundation is that they, this type of thing doesn't suit their portfolio. However, we can always try.
we submitted, I signed a letter today for the Landecker Foundation. They did come in with 15,000 last year. And that's a Hanover-based foundation, and they've been very generous. They gave a lot of money to the Upper Valley Aquatic Center, for instance. I mean,
Public recreation, outdoor recreation.
Right.
they're very
So we're hoping that they may come through with another 15,000, but hope springs eternal.
Okay, so thank you. Mike.
So if anybody has any thoughts on foundations, grants, people that we can approach. I had emailed Carly Bascom, who's head of New England Healing Sports Foundation, never heard back. She had said she would help in whatever way she could, but I guess I can try her again.
Oh, there is one pending that is of note, and that's the Eastman.
Oh, Eastman and also Upton.
Eastman
Upton.
Charitable Foundation is pending, and Upton is pending, and we haven't heard no yet, anyway.
I do have a list of a few that might work. There's the native plant conservation. There's also, the other one was, so a lot of these were for private land programs, so we wouldn't be considered that, but there's also one through the USDA for management and control of invasive species.
That would be great.
So
Yeah.
those two, there's also a wetlands program, but again, I think that's for homeowners.
Mhm.
So, but I'd be happy to check out those three.
Terrific, terrific.
What was the other one? USDA and what?
So the first one was the native plant conservation.
And then the invasive species. Did you see Henry Homeyer's article in the Saturday newspaper about knotweed?
No, because
Yes.
we weren't here, we haven't gotten our paper.
Yeah,
so-
well,
Oh,
he recommends burning it after you dig it out. And that, you know, it has this horrible root system that goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And it takes usually at least 3 years to eliminate it. But first you control it. Yeah, and, you know, he recommended the best time. If you haven't burned it, maybe we should pull that article out and save it. It was interesting.
Hmm.
And the injecting, the Mascoma Lake Association several years ago had, was it somebody from the Upper Valley Land Trust, Terry, that came and talked
Oh,
about.
they
not-
talked at the annual meeting.
Yes, and they talked about injecting it with this.
I saw
It's
that.
not really Roundup, but it's
Yeah.
sort of like Roundup.
Basically Roundup.
Glyphosate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they inject it into the
Into the
stem.
stem.
so
Right,
it's not-
exactly. Well, Homeyer talked
Yeah.
about that in this article
But
as
if
well.
you've got a, an acre of it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna.
yeah,
it's
around the
like
Lutheran
not gonna
church,
work
it's
very
terrible.
easily.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, not for
Definitely
today.
invasives.
Okay, well, that would be great, Patty, if you'd look into those things, because that would certainly help, especially with this land and water conservation grant. Rail trail access, is David here? Oh, hello, Kate. Kate is with us as well, Kate McMullen. We need cooperation with the Friends of the Northern Rail Trail. I know Lindy Heim has been wonderful about posting things in their newsletter and on their Facebook page about, please do not walk or ride down that bank. But I think it's a matter of education more than anything. Certainly, Paul Courier has been fantastic with the snowmobile club and putting up all that fencing and strings or whatever you call them, roping off areas. And
Should we
still-
write him a letter thanking him, or should them a letter thanking them?
That's a good idea, Bridget. They worked very hard and they put up all that fencing and line.
I think that was David.
Is that
And,
David?
oh, is it you, David? Sorry.
That's okay.
That's me and running the screen. I mean, Liam's running the screen, but I have a hard time doing both. And then the next day, it was all ripped out in the dark of night. The fence, the
Really?
strings,
Oh.
everything was pulled out. And not only that, they roped off the new area that we created to access the park from the rail trail. they had gone to the trouble of, I guess, taking a post hole digger and bringing it in and putting up 2 posts and roping off that access. So Jack called it intentional vandalism. But Paul was undaunted and came back with his band of merry men and put it all back up again.
And it's stayed, and I think it's been largely successful in doing what it was intended to do.
Good, good.
What I
So-
think is going on a lot of times is the kids want to prove themselves, so they gotta go up this hill.
Like
I
Evil
watched them
Knievel,
and they
Yeah.
look and, hey, you try it now, you know, so,
yeah, probably be good sledding right down that
yeah,
hill.
it's a little macho thing.
It's really only foot traffic that's been coming down that bank and not a limited minority of the what's obviously by the trails in the snow.
Well, the big problem is going to be in the spring when the ground thaws. If
Right.
they come down that bank, it's going to create a terrible mess. And we've already seeded it twice, and I don't want to have to seed it a 3rd time.
Maybe that's a place for our security camera.
Yes, and come to think of it, I don't have that on the agenda, but,
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's there.
oh, I do, yes, sorry. Does anyone know, Ed, Liam, if Roy got the security camera up? He was going to do it that next day.
There's a sign that says so.
Oh, well, sometimes Patty says just even a blinking red light helps.
There's a sign at the park, David?
Yes.
That must be working.
It's been a week since I saw it, but I did see it.
Where is it?
Um,
Where's the sign?
I don't know exactly where it is. It's over sort of behind the pavilion from the parking lot over toward the open the various trail access areas, but I don't
Mhm.
recall exactly where it is.
We'll have to check it out. True confessions, I haven't been over there lately, other than in the car. Okay, so a note to Paul Courier. I can't remember. Ken, do you know what the name of his organization is, his snowmobile group?
Which one though?
Well, Paul Courier's,
No, I
Paul
don't.
Curtis Mount Cardigan Snowmobile Club,
yeah, and Mark Brady was involved with him too.
and his is the Twin State Trail Busters.
Okay.
I don't know if
thanks.
Mark Gardner, who lives in town, who runs the Snowcat and everything, he may be.
Okay, that's right. I think he was there. There were 2 Marks.
Yeah,
Trail
he's a nice guy and everything. Willing to help, I think.
Twin State Snowcats, David?
No, Snow Busters.
Oh,
No,
Snow
Trail Busters.
Trail Busters.
Just crossing out, crossing out, crossing out.
And the Cardigan Mountain one?
Is Cardigan Mountain Snowmobile Club.
Okay, thanks.
Fish and Game controls that for speeders, actually looking for snowmobiles coming, and they use radar.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I ran into it one day when we were skiing, and a friend of mine, but they set up along the lake, and if somebody comes whizzing by, they get a ticket, and
Are they in a vehicle, Ken, or are they just standing there?
which one,
This Fish and Game?
yeah, it's a approved stop area,
Okay.
and they wait till people come around the curve, and then they get them. But, I mean, they may want to get involved if, just to patrol it once in a while.
Okay.
Because it's snowmobiles on there and everything else, and
That's something I can bring up. I am a member of this Lakes Management Advisory Committee, and there is representation from Fish and Game on that committee, so
yeah,
I can ask him.
and they carry guns.
Yeah, we called them not too long ago because we had a couple complaints that people were going too fast on the rail trail. So
Yeah.
I spent some time out there.
Good.
It's gonna have to be like Lebanon. Lebanon patrols that now with police, their section. They've got an actual, like a golf cart, and it's painted black and white, and it's got an officer in there, and they go back and forth from
On the
Lebanon.
rail trail?
Yeah, and they've been doing that for a couple of years now.
It's a good idea.
So they're looking.
And people are injured and killed in snowmobiles. Usually alcohol and speed are the two main causes. Okay, is that it on the rail trail access? Planning for spring. Patty, I'm going to turn this over to you. We've already mentioned Henry, but I want you to elaborate.
Yes. Sure. So, well, the first thing here, just if we follow along the options for the bank, and that actually does sort of fall in with Henry, because I think one of the things that I've been concerned with is the scale of everything. That we have a very large pavilion, and we have just shy of 3 acres for this whole park from beginning to end. And so I just wanted to make sure that we kind of have sort of the long-term vision of how we want this 3 acres working, being
3.1.
3.1. And because I do, like I said, I think the biggest thing is the scale. And getting that pavilion to kind of look like it belongs there.
Yeah.
I think now it sort of just sits there, and
Like it's
very
been
out of
dropped out of the
place.
sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I was going with Henry. I reached out to him mainly because of the work that he had done in Lebanon on the mall.
Henry
Homeyer.
Omeyer.
And I just really wanted to kind of pick his brain, because what I wanted to do was to come to all of you and say that I really feel like we need to make sure we have a very good firm image of this. I know we have
plan.
calls, I know
Yeah.
we have those drawings and all of that, but that's not really, I don't know that. So anyway, I wanted to talk with him. He agrees. I mean, I think the scale is so important, and making the pavilion look like it fits. And figuring out how to deal with that bank, that open bank area that's right before, yeah, exactly.
Homeyer.
Homeyer.
I think that the other piece too is we want people to use the park properly, and so we do have to guide them in the sense of signage, walkways. And so that all I feel has to be really well thought out. And the goal of trying to figure out how to deal with that bank is rocks are one idea, shrubs are another idea, trees are another idea.
All of the above.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
And
would
no,
say all of the
seriously,
above.
I think that will be what it would end up being,
Yeah.
is a few
little
larger
bit of this
trees
and
and,
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I don't think scattering rocks across is necessarily the best way to do it. I think a fence was discussed, but I think long-term plantings there would be best. But there's concrete tar there, a blacktop there that would have to be pulled up and all of that.
That's
And-
scheduled to be pulled up this
Oh,
spring. Jim
awesome.
has promised that the asphalt is going to go, and I
Good.
think if that were planted with grass, that would
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like a little road to nowhere now. So, yeah, and what Henry had said was that he'd be happy to come out to the park once the snow is gone. So, like maybe April-ish, and take a look at things. He is familiar with the project, and he really was wonderful and very happy to help. So I think, figuring out what to do up there will be important.
What is his?
So
title or-
he's a landscape art designer, kind of.
He's a garden designer, I think, is how he
Yeah,
describes himself, but he goes around and gives advice to people.
right. He just designed a home meadow for some, I mean, he does a lot, he's written several books. He has an article in the Valley News.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
regular columnist on Saturday mornings, on the Saturday Valley News newspaper in the second section.
He has lots of really good information. And I think, yeah. And then I also, we did talk about the importance of signage, and that's when he mentioned Cindy, that
Mhm.
she had just worked with the state of Vermont as a master gardener on some program where they were doing signage. So that-
Cindy is his wife, and
Okay.
her name is Cindy Heath, and she was the Parks and Recreation Director in Lebanon for 17 years. She also was a consultant for a company out of Colorado. I think it's Green Play, but I'm not sure about that. It's Green something, and I think it's
In
Green.
the
Play.
same line of business.
Yeah, she does consulting. She's a master gardener, but she's also a fiber artist, which is how I know her.
Mm.
Because she exhibits at Ava on a regular basis.
Yeah, so I think that, just bringing some good mind power and experience in on the project, but I think, yeah, so that's that. And then for work days, I was thinking either like toward the last couple of weeks of April or just after Mother's Day,
Okay,
depending on,
a lot will be weather dependent.
right. I imagine by then our bulbs
May show up.
our bulbs are gonna start to pop up, so. we
There were
planted
over
a lot of
1,000
bulbs.
daffodil bulbs planted last fall, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they all
Yeah,
take,
yeah.
but, so that,
If we planted it right side up.
right, oh, some of them actually.
We have lots of
Find their way
volunteers.
back up, right. I think it's gonna be just amazing.
So I'm sure Henry doesn't work for free or
No,
donate his time.
he's not, I mean, right now, it's just more, he's gonna come out and talk. He's not
Okay.
charging, it's just more of as sort of a kind of a mentor. The Master Gardener program is really big into that, so they encourage us to reach out. And that's what I did. I mean, he's local too, so that's really,
He lives in Cornish.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that was the, so that's basically, I was hoping, I've been away for many weeks, so I was hoping to get to the park before today's meeting to see how the shrubs did that we planted. I haven't
Mhm.
seen them. I don't know how
They're
they,
probably buried,
I'm hoping they're fine.
but snow is a wonderful protector.
Exactly. So, yeah, and otherwise, that's pretty much it.
You want to say something about what you're going to do tomorrow, Patty?
Oh, tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow, so the New Hampshire, all of the master gardeners for the state have an annual meeting, and they picked a couple of projects to present, and ours was one of them. So that's tomorrow night. So I'm excited because what that will do then is open it up to people who want to help. They'll hear about it, they'll be like, wow, and they'll
Sign
help.
here.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
really, that's the biggest thing, is that we can really draw from that pool of people.
Master gardeners are required to put in so many hours of volunteer time.
Yeah.
To maintain their master gardening status,
Yeah.
and it's a big deal to be
Yeah.
a master gardener.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to feed this project with long-term people who, that's their focus. So, yeah,
It's administered through the University of New Hampshire, is it not?
right, the extension program. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, they will also, one of the things I'm working on is hoping that maybe we would do a meadow planting.
Yeah.
And then that is something that a lot of master gardeners are really into doing. So that would give us a good little team of people.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So,
We sometimes watch Gardener's World, which is a British
Oh, Monty.
TV program. And they were talking about a meadow that just last week, I think, wasn't it? They planted, it was a huge field of tulips, and they had taken tulip bulbs that had done their thing in a garden for 1 year. They dug them up, and the tulips just sort of go downhill after their first planting, and they just let them go wild in this meadow. And by the time it came time to plant the grass, the tulips had died back. It was
nice.
magnificent.
Yeah, that beyond the pavilion, that area that leads to sort of towards
Yes.
Main Street, I think would really, that would be a beautiful place to do sort of a meadow. with native plants, so, yeah.
And attract birds and butterflies and
Absolutely.
other
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah.
Could be a good education program for the elementary school kids as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I have a little update. I did reach out. Chief Holland said the camera's been up for a few weeks.
Oh, okay, great,
Oh, good,
good,
good.
good, excellent.
All right, I have to go see where
Thank
it's
him
where
for,
it's focused.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Patty. It sounds like, well, let's tentatively schedule something for late April.
But like third week of
Yeah,
April?
weather depending,
So it's-
hopefully we're still not in a hard freeze.
Yeah, I think then the question sometimes ends up always being, do we do it on a weekend? Or do we do it during the week? If we do it on a weekend, it gives people who work during the week and the people who live in the community a chance to do something.
But the
But
hypotherm
we don't
people can
get-
only come
right.
on
Yeah,
weekdays.
we don't get the work.
So the
person.
Friday, Saturday thing worked well last
We
year.
could do that. I like doing that because we
Yeah.
have the second day to kind of wrap things up. Okay, so then.
I will still be away. Not coming back until May.
One thing I don't have on the agenda, bad me, is the Mike Burns situation. And I know you want to have an RFP go out, Ed.
It's out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
so-
out.
it was
Okay.
in today's paper.
We had done a lot of investigating on this. Patty had somebody come from Sunapee that does walls, and we had Keith Hess come. Mike is the only one that does this particular concrete technique. And we're really under the gun because the lake, I don't know what the state schedule is. Do you know, Terry, when they
How long
start?
the permit is good for?
No,
When
when
the-
they start to fill the lake up again in the spring.
Well, I guess it sort of depends on Ice Mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it does, I don't think they have a specific date.
it's usually
There's a
not till
date when they
June.
start the drawdown. but
Right.
then-
That's,
I talked to Mike about that and when he planned to do it, and we
Okay.
still think we're on schedule. for
Good.
him
but
if things
like
go
all
right.
contractors, they need the jackals at their
Yeah.
ankles.
No, we talked about it for a while because I wanted to make sure it got done, but if we didn't RFP, we would have been outside of grant guidance. And we
Yeah.
would have been, so
Yeah,
we had to get that done to be able to use grant funds to pay for that.
But is Meredith correct that there's sort of a window of opportunity in the early spring? before
with the lake being
fills up?
down.
Maybe, we didn't talk about that. I just asked him when he planned to do it, because
Yeah.
I know contractor schedules are.
And what did
important
he
as well,
say?
And he said that if we could get the RFP done right at the end of February, beginning of March, he
Okay.
would still have time if it was awarded to him to order all the equipment and get it done. So
Yeah, because there's a lot of demolition work that has to be done. He's got to get the old ties out of there, and also that it's the remains of the old motel dock.
Yeah.
It's essentially a crib filled with rocks.
That in the summer will be half in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
So he
exactly.
has to do that while the lake is
That part
down.
needs to be done, but the actual wall is away from the water.
Yeah.
And also too with that, once they remove all of that, then we're faced with what do we do with this area, you know?
We talked about that at our last meeting. Will the railroad ties, they're so rotten. I'm afraid that if they drop them from a front end loader, they'll fall
Just-
apart.
Yeah.
The original agreement was that they could be stacked up and Jim would take them away.
I think Patty's talking about how to landscape. the
Right,
area.
exactly.
What do you do with the?
Once
what's
everything's
left, the
gone,
mess?
then what do we do?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna look really homely in our public park, and
And it's not good for
and it's also,
erosion.
right, it's an invitation for erosion invasives, it's, so we,
Yeah.
and also, should some of that be part of the scope of the work that the landscaping people do it, you know?
Well, the
just-
wall will go straight across.
Yeah.
There's I call it the little finger or peninsula that sticks out the old dock.
Right,
And it's got a tree growing up through
Yeah.
the middle, a weed tree. He's gonna take all that out. He's also gonna have a pile of rocks that are gonna be taken out of that crib.
yeah,
So where did he put the rocks?
yeah,
That has to be made abundantly clear to him as this contract is worked out.
yeah.
We don't want the rocks just put beside the small boat ramp.
Yeah,
The rocks that are in the cribbing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
yeah.
That
I mean, if he
Steve
puts a
hadn't
nice
put in
neat
there when he was
pile
12 years
somewhere.
old.
You might want them.
I don't think so.
Yes, if they're, if they're
I
good.
thought
that
we-
was his
we
job.
talked
He had to
about the
load them up.
possibility of putting them at the top of the bank.
We did, but I don't think any of them are big enough. They're sort of like this. You
No.
need really
Oh,
big,
okay.
you
Well,
know,
let
rock-
us know.
Maybe
boulders.
put a- It's Dave.
Yes,
Again,
Could they be put along the intersection between the slope down from the rail trail that's all wooded and the flat part that leads up to the to the parking lot area
I'm not clear on.
where the sidewalk is, or on the other side of the sidewalk?
up on the, I don't think we should put lots of little rocks up there.
So we can get rid of them.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about
Pile
that.
them up, we'll figure it out.
If he can't take them, we'll use one
Free for
first to get 'em
takeaway.
out of here.
Put a
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
It may disappear.
Yeah, somebody might need some rocks or something.
Hold his feet to the fire on the, where, in other words, I know he's not going to take the rocks away, but when we originally talked to him, he was going to pile them up. I think, wasn't it over in the corner near where the little lending library is?
I guess so, yeah.
So that,
Hmm.
we'll have to identify a place to put this stuff.
Yeah.
And at the last meeting, I think we talked about, would the railroad ties have to be cut up? Jim doesn't want anything bigger than 8 feet. I don't think there are any ties in there bigger than that, but
Well, there might be, but they should just snap and
Yeah.
the reason for the 8-foot maximum is that's what the Lebanon landfill will accept.
right.
So we put that in the RFP that they would have to be short. And then I did talk to Mike Burns about that as well. And he said it'd be no problem. for him to
Okay,
shorten them.
he's a very
He thought he
agreeable
could just
guy.
snap them right into
Yeah.
pieces. So all the restoration of the disturbed area is part of the RFP and it's part of Mike Burns' intention if it goes that way. But it's the shoreland permit will not allow erosion and the shoreland permit requires the restoration with native vegetation and that's the
You have to
plan.
identify what that is.
Right, so we actually did, in that grant that was worked on, there was a lowland transition zone recommendations for plantings put in, so we could go right back to that. It's mainly low growing native shrubs that would attract birds.
Super
Very-
hardy.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
just want to make sure, because the way that the sailors use that
Mhm.
area, there's benches there for seating, and it's not going to be an area where there'll be room for sitting on the ground. Mainly, it's just going to be the benches and keep it open for the people to be able to move their boats through.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mhm,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. And at the top of the new, I guess how they finish off the top of that retaining wall, is there gonna be anything planted along that? Or is that, that, so that just having an idea of how that will be when they're finished?
There'll be drainage behind the wall, there'll
Behind
be
the
crushed
wall.
stone behind the wall to take the drainage.
Yeah.
So you'll have, 2 feet or a foot to 2 foot of just crushed stone there. That's just gonna take the water so that you don't have lateral soil pressure pushing against the wall. So they want the water to drain out, so you don't have wet soil leaning into it essentially.
Shirley Green has one of these Mike Burns walls. She's a member of this committee, and unfortunately she couldn't be here today. Shirley had a natural rock wall that failed along the, it was not boulders, I mean laid stonework. And it didn't work, so they went with this, and it's been very successful. But again, they built it when the lake was down. I guess that's how we heard about Mike Burns in the
Yeah.
first place.
So it doesn't have a top, like
Well, it's
I mean,
got
It'll
to,
have if it's cast concrete, it'll
Right.
be a cast concrete
the
top.
top.
Yeah.
Top of it'll look just like the face of it, just like the wall of it.
Mhm.
And it's,
So it'd probably be something that
No,
people
it should be
sit
sit
flat.
on.
He'll flatten it and finish it
Yeah.
flat. So they'll
Yeah.
pour it flat and finish it flat.
and people will sit on it, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
okay.
isn't bad.
No, not at all. No, that's good. Okay, and then just, so, okay, well, yeah, it's, all right, great.
Well, the face of it looks like stone.
Yeah,
Right, you're right, but it,
And actually, Meredith,
Yes,
has Patty seen the pictures that your husband Doug circulated after that we went and looked at walls?
you had a field trip to
oh, I
go
don't
and look
think I
at it.
saw those, no,
Oh, you haven't seen them?
not the field trip ones,
I'll
no.
send them to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would help. And,
Doug
you know,
will circulate photos of the Mike Byrne walls.
Well, I did, but I kind
Okay.
of didn't get them.
At least I don't recall.
Okay.
I know that, yeah.
Add Liam to your list.
And I can look actually.
so the tree that's growing up out of that cribbing, you want that gone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has to
it
go.
can't survive.
It's just a junk tree.
Okay,
It
there's
just,
another little sapling right behind the
Yep.
wall. That's gonna have to go just
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
work.
yeah, it's gonna have to
Yeah.
go.
Okay,
There was one that had a pink ribbon on it, actually, on that wall.
Right.
Yeah, that's, I think it's probably too big. Yeah.
Transplant.
it's right in the way.
I mean,
There's
yeah.
no way that can
No, he
survive.
can't.
No,
He-
it can't survive, but
But
I
don't-
It
was,
wasn't a junk.
Is
And
the, is the
if we
state
could-
okay with taking the tree out that's extending out into
They
the
gave us
cribbing
the
there?
permit.
They
And that-
usually wanna save all the trees they can generally.
well, the little one, if it's possible, we could save that and
Okay.
transplant that within the park, because it's a nice tree. I think it's a cherry, the
Mm-hmm.
one that has the pink ribbon on it. But the one that's in the old dock, that's a weed tree. It's gonna,
Okay.
Mhm.
yeah.
Is there still gonna be the fall hazard that there has been?
The what hazard?
The fall hazard
I don't know what you're talking about.
along the wall?
You mean people falling off the wall?
Correct.
Because they don't know there's a wall there.
Yes.
Well, put it
It's
this
not gonna
way,
be-
it's
it's not
better
gonna be
than,
6 feet high.
It's all,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's going to be better than a rotten railroad tie wall with spikes coming up through it.
but I understand, I think I understand where you're coming from. Because you want to make sure people see it, you mean, and don't walk off of it? Is that, David, what you're thinking?
Well, I know there was considerable concern and we flagged it several different ways to try and make sure that kids didn't fall off it without awareness, I guess.
Yeah,
Falling apart.
Right, that was because it was crumbling and it had some metal stakes in there and it was more to keep people away. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the
Oh, okay.
spikes that are in there.
I think again, when you look at those pictures, certainly at Shirley's home, behind the wall and behind the stones, she did some plantings. You know, and that would be something we might want to look at. I mean, not tall plantings, short plantings.
Exactly.
Just to
Yeah.
slow kids down a bit.
Creeping juniper and things like that.
Low grow, something low
I-
growing.
I did notice at the Christmas celebration we had there on the 12th, kids were jumping off the wall by the pavilion and rolling around and then running back up and repeating the action. So it was a source of entertainment, actually.
We had talked about planting there.
Mhm.
And the recommendation was to plant about a dozen low grow sumac.
Okay,
As a way to prevent people from
yeah,
jumping or, just that, keeping that area. So if that's something, that's something that maybe could be planted in a workday in the spring.
okay.
And there's still some money left over from that byways grant to buy some plants.
Oh,
So,
that's excellent,
Yeah.
Patty.
But I think
Good.
putting something in there is gonna be important.
I haven't contacted the Grafton County Extension because I usually buy stuff from them. But I'm wondering if they have anything that would be suitable.
Yeah, they may. They may.
So how intensive are you planting behind that? Because Paul Mirsky's got that ADA access ramp right in that location there.
Right. Yeah, so that sort of goes back to that thing that I said earlier about knowing sort of what that long-term vision is,
Mm.
because it's such, it's really silly to plant things and then dig them up and move them. It's expensive. It's just not.
And it's
wise.
rough on the
So-
plants.
So
It,
really-
we may not be able to follow everything that Paul has put
I
in.
think you
his-
should consider the importance of the ADA requirement to the grant funding. I talked to our contact person with the state,
Mhm.
and he says any revision to the ADA access is gonna require reapplication for the grant.
Oh, gosh.
So he was very insistent that the ADA requirement be maintained.
Was this with Bill Gigas?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I told you, I think I talked to Paul,
I was talking about it.
and he wasn't, he
Okay,
didn't
so there's
seem to
no
think
access
it
there.
needed to be done anytime soon.
There's very limited requirements for access to recreation areas, and boat launches are one of them. The grant funding that we're getting is a federal pass-through. And the ADA access to the boat launch was a consideration according to Bill
but
Gigas.
ADA people are already using the boat launch.
ADA has specific grading
I mean,
requirements.
ADA people,
So whether-
they're using it now, the boat launch.
Whether they're capable of using it and whether that meets ADA requirements really are two different things. In construction, an ADA requirement is slopes and grades, okay?
Right.
The slope, rest areas, the radius of the ramps, and the pitch of the flatness of it, let's say. It
Yeah,
can't pitch
I know
more
they
than
don't
2%.
like pavers, but they're using pavers. New England Healing Sports has training programs that they run at at that ramp for getting people in and out of a kayak. It's amazing to see them work there. And we had a 93 years old veteran from the VA, disabled veteran. They got into a kayak and pushed her out for a paddle on the lake.
Yeah, well, the ramp was put in long before we ever talked about ADA
Right.
park, but
Right, it was more for ease of pushing the dollies for the, car top sailboats down.
but the space that we were talking about by the retaining wall, there isn't a path there. I mean,
There's a
she was
path on the
the
plan from
pavilion.
Paul Murphy.
not below, where she was talking about where the retaining wall is between the pavilion and the lake. That
Yeah,
portion
that was-
there,
yeah.
there's nothing there,
Okay.
but just to
Mm.
hold the erosion.
That's really steep there.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what she was talking about,
Yeah.
putting those plans.
Yes, Doug.
Liam brings up something very important. If we must follow that plan to be eligible for the
LWC grant
LWCF grant, then we damn well better know as a committee that that's gonna be part of this,
of the plan.
of this RFP that you're putting out.
Well, it's not part of the RFP for the retaining wall because the
because
retaining.
No,
wall-
I understand that, but what about the parking lot area and all that?
Well, they don't, it's a matter of phasing. So you had talked about phasing of the project. So,
Yeah.
Ultimately, the state is going to review what's been accomplished and they're gonna maybe withhold funds in their estimation. There's limited amount of money left and the ADA access hasn't been achieved yet. According to Bill Gigas, the state is gonna wanna check out what's happening and that is their priority.
But we could do it as a separate project from the parking
You
area.
could phase it, I'm just cautioning, and I was mistaken about where we were talking about the plantings behind the retaining wall. But I would just caution that you don't move forward with infilling that area where the ADA ramp is intended with other things. So
Right.
don't spend a lot of money on what's
Yeah.
gonna go on behind there
exactly.
because
Exactly.
Yeah, no, no.
ultimately, that's gonna be a state requirement.
Well, we're
So-
also going to have to cut down a considerable amount of vegetation to create an access. So then we get into the shoreline protection issue.
That's right, and there's I don't know the answer to that, but I would say that,
Well, I can call Bill Gigas and myself, because I've had dealings with him in the past.
Hmm.
He's very reasonable. Yes,
Meredith, can I speak to this briefly?
Kate. Yeah,
Because I've read the 50 pages of and I get I think perhaps Leah has too, of how, of what's required for this ramp. And that was the hesitation that people had, is that we are going to have to conform to these federal requirements through the state.
know,
Bill Gigas
Jack
isn't
was
making the
not too
decision.
keen on it for a lot of reasons.
Right, but the point is somehow that Bill Gigas is also has to adhere to.
That's
the
right. He
land
has
water
to follow
grant.
what the feds are telling him.
And bottom line is, what we do as we move forward has to be ADA conforming. And Jack Wozniak made that point, even with that dock on the other end and so forth, what dock at this point, but understand? So it's just, we as we're planning need to realize that we are going to conform, period, because we're not going to give up the
Well, I
250.
think the first step then is to block out the area where this access is going to go. If it has to be moved to the left or the right of wherever Paul has it on the drawing. Paul has been doing this all remotely because he's disabled himself. So I think we need to ribbon it off and say, this is a no-go zone, because this is where we're going to have our access.
Right, exactly. Okay.
so Paul has a note on his drawings to hire a licensed surveyor to set grades for the ramp. So he doesn't want to just wing it. He wants a surveyor to say, this is the grade and this is what we got to do to achieve ADA, and this is how it should be laid out. Now, Paul has his own layout, but a surveyor will have the topography essentially and know what's
Sure.
achievable there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that we call in a surveyor now to identify the best place to put this access?
Well, the ramp has to be in such a place that it can access the boat launch. Boat launches are one of the few,
It's not a boat launch.
well,
According to the state, we do not have a boat launch there. We have a walkway. We could not get a permit for a boat launch. If that makes any difference at all.
well, the Bill Gigas is, he's privy to the plans and he wants access to that. That's what we're
Yeah.
achieving.
We
So
can
that,
confirm that, and he made it very clear that that was a big reason you got the grant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Was because of the
Yes,
ADA
they don't want
accessibility.
a boat launch.
fine.
So we'll dot our i's and cross our t's there and talk to him and make sure
Okay.
that gets done.
So it sounds like the first step moving forward is to get a surveyor, identify a surveyor that's qualified to do this ADA planning or grading, identifying the grades before we move forward.
Is that a survey? That could possibly be a landscape architecture.
Right, exactly. Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah.
As opposed to a surveyor who tells you what's there.
And again, just to sort of go back with the piece that's been the hardest for me is knowing that front area is sort of we're not sure what's going to happen to it. So knowing what to do with it from an aesthetic standpoint of finishing it off, if you
Mhm.
will, from a gardening standpoint, it's just so hard to know, because what are we going to do there? What's going to happen there?
Yeah,
So I think that that's exactly right. And that same person can also help us understand how the humans are going to move through this space and how we can direct them properly. So it's all kind of,
I have not seen. that.
so this was just something.
Patty,
Paul had
have you
sent.
interacted with any actual board certified landscape architects in your travels.
I mean, I've worked with one myself personally many years ago.
I interviewed one company from Hanover, and before they did anything, they wanted $40,000.
Right, so also too, didn't someone, I did contact him, I can't remember his
Mhm.
name now. He said he had actually put a bid. in.
That's probably the same
Might be
one.
him.
Yeah.
I don't.
No,
think-
actually, the one that bid, wasn't that the, they're sailors. He hopes to sail around the world sometime. Dave, you know who I'm talking about.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris.
Yes.
Chris
I think-
Ross?
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Ross, yes.
Ross is an architect. He's not a landscape architect. Big difference.
Okay, he is not landscape. What about Norwich University again? Maybe we should go back there. If we don't want to spend a lot of money, as a class project, but I don't know what we get. I don't know how, good it would be.
I think tomorrow night, when I speak to this group of master gardeners,
Right.
that also I can put out some kind of a.
That would be great,
Yeah,
Patty.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to do a little research to see who's out there. And really, that's where I was feeling very happy about Henry.
Mhm.
That, he's got that experience to see the whole picture.
Yeah,
So, I
Okay.
think that's gonna be super important.
yeah. Okay, so that'll be great, Patty. Word of mouth is sometimes the best way to get information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Doug?
I wanted to ask Liam a question about this ADA thing. When we were talking at the park, I think I learned from you, maybe not, that there's an indoor set of ADA requirements and there's an outdoor set of requirements. And they're not administered by the same government.
Yeah, and I sent you the US Forest Service.
That's it.
That is what the state goes by for trails.
Okay, I think that's interesting. I'm not sure that the rest of the committee understands that.
Yeah, and I just found that out when I found that out before I talked to Bill Giga. So I was just doing some research to see what I could find on that. And I had told Bill Gigas that I was referencing some information from that booklet from the US Forest Service. And he said, yes, that's what we go by.
Okay.
So that is what we should be adhering to. And if you could send it out to everybody, I don't have links to everybody's, I couldn't find a group link for this committee, but you have it, Doug, if you still have it, yes,
Yeah, I
that's
guess I
what
do.
Bill Giga says that the state will go by.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay,
Looks like David's got a.
okay, David?
Just a question, I thought that when we were looking at planning for what to do for the retaining wall, and the deteriorating retaining wall, that and to qualify for shoreline protection, that the criteria that we used was not changing from the current location and design.
It's gonna be exactly where the railroad tie wall is.
Okay, so how does that interface with ADA requirements?
I don't think it does.
If we're not changing anything on the shoreline, where does the transition become ADA or
Well,
versus shoreline protection?
It has nothing to do with the replacing of the retaining wall. The ADA access is completely separate.
It
It
works
is,
around the wall.
Paul planned a trail that would go around the pavilion and into the area behind it. That would be ADA correct or compatible or whatever, the width, the slope, so forth. And we agreed to that. And then that, as I'm hearing, when we applied for the land and water compensation, they looked at his plans. And so they expect that. It's not
So
to do with.
different areas of the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Parking lot to the pavilion and beyond,
Mhm.
and actually to the rail trail.
But that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, because we
Since
definitely,
Vegas seems to think that the non-motorized boat ramp that we call the non-motorized boat ramp is described by the state as a walkway. He needs to know that we don't really have a boat ramp.
Yeah, I'm the one
Nor is one
describing it as a
allowed.
boat launch. I'm the one describing it as a boat launch, just in my own research of what we have.
That's what it says on the websites and things.
Yeah.
It says non-motorized boat launch. So,
Right.
yeah.
and in addition to that, the people that gave the money, 8 to 10,000 to build it, built it as a non-motorized boat ramp. I mean, I don't care what the state calls it, but I know you're gonna have some unhappy donors if boats can't launch down it, canoes, kayaks,
Saying
and,
both
you know,
lots
and
down.
lasers.
But they still can use it as they are.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
nobody's saying that.
Yeah, it's just verbiage.
Yeah, it's just.
But if if you put in a boat launch, you need permit from the state, and they were not gonna approve of a boat launch in that location.
Because there is one on the other side of the bridge.
Well,
A
yeah,
state
and
boat
also
ramp.
the
and
river is
because-
there.
Right,
Just-
and because when the motel was there, it was a set of stairs. Yes, absolutely. All right, but but I guess the thing is somehow, my understanding of what Paul Mursky planned that was ADA compatible did give people in wheelchairs access to the water down that walkway.
And that there's a whole separate path down from, in the ADA park that he had.
He made a
designed.
separate one that I missed.
Separate
Okay.
one.
That's gonna cost a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna take up the whole grant.
It's quite
do
extensive,
that.
but really, I mean, yeah.
Is it up the far end of the park or where is it in relation to the walkway?
On the pavilion.
Just before the pavilion, if you were walking towards the pavilion, yeah, I don't know if you can, I don't know.
No, it's down by the sail club. It's right
Well,
down by the
here's
sail
what we have now. Here's our walkway
Okay, so
now,
it's away from,
and it's walking towards the pavilion here.
I
Because,
thought this was the pavilion.
well, the
Doug
lake is
says
here.
it's where the sailing
club. It's
club
right where
is.
the sailing club is.
Here's the water,
Okay.
and the pavilion is like over here. You can't see it on this, that's why, but this is all the, the parking.
Well, okay, we can talk about it, but I think it'd be less expensive to redo the non-motorized boat launch than to do all this.
Possibly. If
Make
you wanna-
it ADA accessible.
I have that. I have a different drawing from Paul that, I didn't make copies. This is just what I got for me, but,
If it's ADA, it's gonna have to
to
go.
give you an idea of what he's thinking here, what the location of it here is, so.
I don't know, I never got that.
So this is more of his master plan. This is where it is. This is the one, okay? This is the entrance to the drive. This is the boat access
Yeah.
right here, okay? So this is the boat access.
Now.
okay? Yeah,
What we
no, this is it now. This is the plan.
Oh, this is the proposed.
This is the ADA walkway here. Here's the entrance to the drive. Right here. This is the street.
So this is our existing.
This is
little
the
boat launch.
retaining wall right here. This is the retaining wall right there.
Yeah.
This is your boat over here. This is where the boats come.
So this is a different
The
one.
non-motorized boat launch is right here.
The one that we have.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
He shows a set of stairs
It's a diff-
here.
yeah. We have
This
too many
is this,
sets.
right here, this
This one's
horizontal
the-
back line.
Oh,
It's not cut the
I think I'm
top.
all turned around.
This is the retaining wall here.
Okay.
The retaining wall here. This is where the cribbing is over here.
Here's your
The
retaining
tree we
wall.
were talking
Yeah.
about, this
Right.
is the
The
remainder
one
of
that
the
he's showing
retaining
here
wall,
though,
there's a
doesn't
bench
have this.
sitting up here right now,
See this
picnic
one?
table, I mean.
Here's the current.
But this is where,
I think right here.
everyone heads down
And then I
into
don't
the
know what
lake
this
to
is
go.
here. He's got a
ice
new one.
fishing
No,
here.
and
this is
access
just
to it.
Right,
this is
right.
the
That's the
current-
current.
Yeah,
This is the entrance.
Okay.
yeah.
This is
Okay.
right where
Here's
the
the
ceiling.
entrance.
Got it.
So the
Okay.
launches their stuff.
So the
Where
sailing
somebody
club is all
stays.
right.
I think it's here, right? This is where they come down.
They come down, but they store all their
Oh, they
boats
do?
over here.
All right.
Well, they may have to move their, this is an
Yeah.
issue that's going to have to be discussed with the sailing club, that when this walkway is blocked in, it will require moving your dinghy dock. I remember we talked about this a while back, a long while back.
Could you give me the, or could Liam, the number or some identification for that drawing? Because I do have,
C2.
say it again,
We're looking at.
See, is in-
B or C?
C is in car,
Okay, C2.
C2.
I'll look it up. All right. Because I don't remember that there was a path separate down to the water where the dock is, but it's okay if there is. You know, we will, and I can hear Bill Fontaine, we'll cooperate, but we'll do what you need.
We just never
There's two
discussed-
drawings. ADA 1 will give you everything I just had. C2 is just his master plan. But ADA 1 is really, is his ADA plan.
oh,
And that I don't think I've seen, but
Well,
I
you
will-
saw- it's quite a while ago.
It's pretty confusing.
I remember, Kate, when we approved
Right.
Paul's phase 3, that was on there, but we just never discussed it.
yeah, we're kind of focusing in on it now, maybe a day late and a dollar short.
that's okay.
With the
I will
punches.
make a point of coming in and taking a look at it, so that I can share it with the sailing club board, and, you know, and again, we'll do what we need to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's plenty of.
Out of
places
mind.
for dinghy dock, dinghy dock.
Well, this area isn't.
Okay, have we hashed this out?
You've introduced it.
Yeah,
I don't think we're
right.
gonna hash it out tonight. but-
Well, I'm gonna contact Jen Stark. She's the person at the VA. And she coordinates a lot of the VA disabled programs. She's the one that brings the veterans, the biking veterans and the kayaking veterans, and they've been using the existing boat ramp, even though they're disabled. But that, I understand, isn't going to fly from the law, and that we have to design and create a qualified
ADA.
ADA that meets the requirements. I understand that. They are currently using the facilities that we have there. In fact, she had contacted me about getting an ADA porta potty, and that they would pay the difference between a regular one and an ADA accessible porta potty. So I think she will be critical in feeding us information. I know she told me that the best surface for wheelchairs is asphalt. We had put those pavers that are on the non-motorized boat ramp are pervious pavers that allow, that's why it was so expensive. It allows for the moisture to
That's
filter
right.
down through.
That was
Yes.
very eroded there.
I think the handicapped access is grandmothered and grandfathered in to allow them to use it, and they're not necessarily looking at the regulations before they do so.
Yeah,
Meredith,
yes,
do you mind just either looping me in or sending me her info? Because I'd love to just have the info available for recreation, just kind of as that hub to give people
you mean this
info
ADA,
about
stuff,
that.
Bridget?
No, the veteran stuff.
Oh, no, yeah, that's sure. She runs 2 groups in the sunny weather. I think it's Mondays, they come there to kayak. And then she has another group that's a bike group, bicycle on the rail trail. I've worked with some of these disabled vets at Ava, and they aren't necessarily, they don't look, they're not missing a limb, or they're not blind. They don't look disabled, but they, for whatever reason, have a disability. I'll send you her contact information and anything else, which is,
Yeah,
it's good to have you, Bridget, because this just feeds in so much to what you're doing with recreation. I mean, it's parks and recreation, right?
Yeah, and it would just be great because, talking with the rec commission, really what we're thinking Parks and Recreation is kind of that central hub where when people are looking for something or an activity, the recreation director would have at least a contact and how
Yeah.
to put people in touch. So,
Exactly. Okay, will do. And you're perfectly welcome to join these meetings. Join the park committee for that matter. Okay, winter park usage. Oh, Bridget, could you tell us how the skating is going? I know this weather isn't conducive to ice.
yeah, I would say going, not going. So the update
Yeah.
as far as a little while ago is Ben was out there. He didn't have a lot of luck on the south end of the lake so far, which would be kind of that Lakeside Park side. The north end, it looks like he did get some of a trail plowed. Doesn't look so pretty at the moment. I think it's pretty slushy and soft. We were kind of hoping that Mother Nature maybe would be kind enough to melt and freeze enough to resurface it.
Yeah.
So our backup, right? Yeah, right. Not on Saturday either.
No,
Before
no.
would be fine. So yeah, the backup plan is I haven't heard if he was successful. He was asking about borrowing a Nordic skate ski groomer, and he was going to groom a couple trails on the lake that way to give people another option. And if
Okay.
all else fails, then it's just to bring some snowshoes, go for a walk, bring some classic kind of, cross country skis, and let's just have fun on the lake that day. It does,
Exactly.
it gets rid of the skate clinics quite possibly. I haven't seen if Carol and Jamie will be able to do the skate clinics they had planned yet, but anyway, so we're trying. I did send out some information on the listserv. I know it gets posted to the Facebook page, and we're trying to keep people up to date as we kind of maneuver the best we can. But Ben's been pretty great. He's very dedicated to try to get this to work. So he's trying.
Well, I have to tell you that some years ago, when there was a group that wanted to buy what we called the Bill property, the house that's been blitzed up and sold for $1 million, George Crow, the former Dartmouth hockey coach, was so excited about it. And he just was thrilled and said, I know where I can get a secondhand Zamboni. And he was all set to get his Zamboni and drive it all over that lake.
May I bring up a question?
Yes,
Where are we gonna build our bonfire and what's
Are we
appropriate?
talking about Ice Day now?
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
what's an environmentally appropriate place on the lake or on the shore, or are there any problems?
How about
with
on the
it?
beach?
The little
Shakoma Beach.
beach down there, yeah.
On which beach?
Shakoma?
Well, we're supposed to be
Oh.
on at the park.
Oh, I thought everything was over at the other side. by the
No,
boat
it's
launch.
essentially all over the lake. Well, Bill Martin told me once that if you burn stuff, the ash is good because the lake is acid.
Acid, yeah.
So anything you do to neutralize is to the good, but we don't want to put junk in the lake either.
Right.
Yeah, they had a test case down on the other end of the lake once. They had a bonfire. People started complaining, then they got a hold of the state. And somebody went up and says, yeah, you're not supposed to do this,
What, put a fire on the,
on the ice, yeah.
On the ice.
yeah,
So
well-
we should be on the shore.
yeah,
Yeah,
on the shore. Which is a lot more generous than when the lake is up.
And we're gonna have residue, that to clean up afterwards, so maybe it ought to be right in the parking lot.
But people have a tendency to throw stuff into the fire and
Yeah.
all this other junk.
Well, why don't we go over there and suss it out tomorrow?
I don't think it's any law, but somebody tried to enforce it and they made the guy take all the burnt logs, and everything out of there.
Yeah,
Well, I hadn't planned on anything really big.
Yeah.
It's called a warming fire, not a not a
Bonfire.
bonfire. I mistakenly referred to it as a
I wonder if
bonfire.
anyone has like a backyard.
Oh,
that
yes.
We
you
do,
could
but
just
it's
Bring over.
frozen to the ground.
Oh,
Yeah.
start a fire under it and thaw it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
tried that to defrost a septic system once that had frozen up.
didn't work.
How'd that work for you?
Didn't work.
I think via Bridget, that we should commend the efforts of the Sailing Association this season. I think they've, in large part, relieved the parking issues that we had last winter. And having a successful winter up until this last melt. So, which nobody can control. So I think it's very good to be seeing that, and it's certainly not caused the traffic jams that we saw last year and problems with the neighbors.
Good point. Well, Doug and I will go over there tomorrow and figure something out.
You might be able to put something in the listserv possibly to see if somebody has a backyard one that is available that's not frozen.
Yeah.
My daughter has one, but she doesn't live around here, but it's like propane, which is so much easier.
I know, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same smell.
Yeah, wow.
And I can tell you so I believe just for ease of use, I'm likely going to put the Hanover Adventure Tours, e-bike, fat tire bike people,
Yeah.
over on the Lakeside Park side, because I think they're looking for some kind of a trail possibly. So they might be able to use the path that goes to the rail trail for people to test out bikes. I'm not sure if they'll take them on the lake or not. And I am borrowing some cones from the town on Friday, and I'm going to try to cone off at least 2 parking spots over in the Lakeside Park, because they are going to need a spot to park
Okay, great.
for the bikes and to have the bikes. And I thought I could at least get you 1 parking spot as well, the committee guaranteed. So the fire departments, I think, are planning to show up around 9, and they'll be parked right along that, the lake side itself.
Yeah,
And then everybody else will be, on the other side. So I am going to try to reserve a couple of spots, and hopefully nobody moves the cone.
oh, I know that trick. Okay, well, the location for the fire is up in the air. We'll figure on that. Doug
Okay.
says he can contribute some sugar wood.
I've
Well, I'll-
signed on them for what they're for.
What's that?
You're all broken up.
That didn't come through, Bridget. Okay.
No.
maybe-
Bridget.
I don't think it was me.
Just strange noises were erupting from the screen. Okay, so let's hope for a nice day on Saturday. Liam, do I need to, you can light a fire when there's snow on the ground, but you have to contact Hanover Dispatch. So should I talk to Phil Neely ahead of time?
Yeah, that would be a good idea, sure.
Okay,
Just if he gets called.
okay. I mean, I'm not talking about a huge conflagration, a little
Well, that's-
warming.
I
I'm
think-
I'm on the DES mailing list for whenever they send out newsletters. They've got one called, I think Greenworks is the name of it, and they just had something about creating anything on the ice. When they were talking about ice fishermen not leaving
Yeah,
their
There was a
residue
problem
out
with that
there. It was
last year.
primarily for ice fishing, but
Yeah.
I can't remember if I cruised through it. I can't remember if they had anything about burning wood, but it
Yeah,
might be
I would keep
something
it on
in
the
that
land.
yeah,
newsletter.
I'm not
Hmm.
featuring going out on the ice and having a fire, might go right through. Okay, let's get down to park management issues and bike racks.
Okay. So I had looked at bike racks back in December, and they were saying the delivery was probably 8 to 12 weeks. Now it's more like 20 to 22 weeks, and the prices have gone up.
Oh.
I can show you the one that I like the best, but it wouldn't get here till July or August, but I think it matches our picnic tables.
Yeah.
It's cedar and black. It's all recycled plastic. And it will take 7 bikes, but you can go from either side. I can pass this around. That's $860, including shipping,
Mhm.
but we wouldn't get it probably until July or August.
Well, I think that's what we're gonna hear from those places.
There was another one that I could probably get by March, but it's gonna be galvanized metal.
Mhm.
This one, no, this one.
How much is the galvanized metal one?
Well, it varies. There's one here that will take 9 bicycles,
Mhm.
and with shipping, it's $912.
Hmm.
Global Industries, $800, and they would get here. They have it in stock. They could get it by the end of February. I can pass these around. It has stuff on it.
You use the kickstand.
Yeah,
It doesn't, you want something you can lock your bicycle to.
Yeah.
And, yeah, this is another
I like
one.
the ones that match the picnic tables.
I did too. That was
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah.
And besides, it won't rust.
That's
Yeah,
this
those are
one.
nice.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm passing that right
I'd be
there.
for waiting for that one.
Yeah, I think it's
So
better
maybe
to
we
wait.
should move to do this
I
now.
think,
Because
Yeah, I
then-
think if we want to do it, and maybe they make them to order. So I think it would make sense to try to get the order in this week.
Well, we
If you've
do
got the
need to get into the
$1,000.
RFP situation. Liam, what is I don't remember what the requirement is if you're going to spend X amount of dollars. What is the cutoff for an RFP? Do we need an
Oh,
RFP? to buy-
$10,000, yeah, $10,000, I
Oh,
believe.
so we
is
don't
what
need
it
one
is.
for a
I
bike
don't
rack.
believe so. I have the
Okay.
purchasing policy in my office from
Okay,
the town, but I know RFPs were 10,000,
Yeah.
so.
I really do like the bicycle racks that are like a loop that you put
Mhm.
right into the ground, but if we're not gonna have the parking lot done, this
Yeah.
would be a great interim bike rack for the next.
yeah, and
Year
I
or
don't think it's
whatever.
gonna get thrown in the back of a pickup truck.
No, it weighs about 90 pounds,
Yeah,
so
I move we buy it.
which one did you like?
The one that you like, the one that
That
matches
matches the
the
picnic
the picnic
tables?
table.
Which one is that?
I second
It's
that.
this one.
and we have had people that have said they would be willing to contribute to that,
Yes,
so we might.
myself, and I know David mentioned that he would be willing, and also Jean's take the patents.
Yeah,
Nice.
So we
Can
can,
Can I ask a question, just
sure.
FYI, just talking about the bicycles with the fat tires, will that accept
Oh.
bicycles with the fat tires?
It will take this, it's got different slots,
Oh, yeah.
so some are narrow, like 2.5, and then some between them are wider. I don't know exactly how wide that is, but it looks like it's probably double. Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure if the really fat ones that they have out now that are like this for thicker
Yeah, I
ones,
thought,
no,
you know,
I don't know.
just throwing it out there, I don't bicycle, but I know Bridget was talking about it, and I know they're out there with the big wide tires for the snow,
Yeah.
so that, I'm
It
just
may-
throwing it
may
out
fit
there.
in
before
with
you
Maybe-
buy it.
Maybe we should talk to the bike people this Saturday.
They don't have bicycle racks that are freestanding that have that kind of a really wide that I saw.
those
Um,
bikes will have to just lock their bike and hope for the best.
Uh,
With a kickstand, as you say, Ken.
You could do something like this one. David can't see it, but it's a loop.
Oh,
But these you have to have something to mount into the ground.
I don't like the way that looks. I mean, it's so contemporary for a
Yeah,
car.
it is contemporary.
And what I've said before is most of the bikers are there 10 minutes and they're gone.
Yeah.
They're not stopping for any, get a drink of water and look at the lake and they're
They could
going.
certainly, if you had 2 of those fat, big tires bikes, you could probably lock them to the sides of the bike rack.
Looks like there's spots for big tires.
The
throughout.
majority of bikes that I see on the rail trail are standard
If you want to,
bikes.
if, for those who are on Zoom, if you want to go to Belson Outdoors, and the model number is BR 200.
Thank you.
We found a bike that was using gasoline, they crashed it over the side, and I just happened to spot it when the leaves disappeared. and-
Oh, my gosh. Did they
So
leave
the
it there?
Hmm?
They left it there?
Yeah, yeah, and those are expensive bikes, and
Must
it was
have been
right
just
at the-
gas.
almost going into the water, and it had a gas tank and everything.
Maybe it was a stolen bike.
So I called the Trails Bureau, and they took care of it
Yeah.
in Concord, and they're not supposed to be out there. So
But-
probably someone
Oh,
stole,
gasoline bikes are not allowed on the rail trail?
no,
Interesting.
just the new battery ones,
Yeah,
they can use
electric
them.
ones.
So who would order this? Would that be something that the town manager has to do, or does it?
Good question.
I can give you this sheet. This tells you where the company is. And the model number and everything. Or I don't know who to give it to.
Who ordered the tables?
Well, actually, Kim Quirk did, because she, that's a long story, but Kim had used her business account because she got a better deal by
Well, maybe
doing
you
that.
get a better deal on this.
Well, I can't, Kim's a busy person. I can't ask her to do that.
Okay, okay.
I can, if you give me the sheet, I will check with Ed and see how we proceed.
How do you proceed? Could you say if you had $1,000 that we could use? And I can also let the patents know that we are going ahead. When you order it, let me know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask you for any contribution
Okay.
until it's this one. So
Okay,
it's cedar and black model BR200.
okay,
And this is today's estimates.
okay. So you don't need to talk to these people anymore.
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah,
Nice.
that looks nice.
Do you know where we're gonna put it?
Okay,
We'll get there.
I had written on the,
That's great.
Bridget has left the meeting. I had written establishing a friends group. And I think I'll pass on that for another day. Does anyone have any other business? Ken?
You know, we're trying to get the bike people to spread out through the town,
Yeah,
and there's been signs put up, says Depot Street and.
right.
But it's almost like it needs a little sign attached to that and to show the rail trail. Because people coming into town don't know where it is.
Right.
No, they
It
don't know
has a
where
sign for
Depot Street
parking.
is. Exactly.
And
There's
it's
a
a-
sign that says parking, go that way, but it doesn't say access to rail trail.
Yeah, and people would be looking around for it,
Mhm.
but just even if it's some railroad tracks or something that on the sign beside it. It would maybe alleviate some of the parking problems there. Because somebody coming in from Massachusetts doesn't know where Depot Street is.
We've got no business being in New Hampshire in the first place.
And I had one more idea that possibly that
Now, how
problem
do we
with the
go
steep
forward
slope.
with that? That,
I wonder if,
I'm just gonna interrupt you. It sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
How do we go forward with it? That was.
Yeah, we need a sign design.
yeah, make it a
Or a
contest or
decal
something.
that you could add to the sign that's already there. That might be easy.
Yeah, you know, the sign would be here and this would be right just below it and it would say, doesn't have to say anything, just a picture of a rail
You're talking about our lake park, the sign.
and,
Well, there's one on Shaker Hill Road that points to parking
Mhm.
at Depot Street. It just says parking.
Right,
Mhm.
But if you put, as you said, put something that
yeah,
indicates a railroad,
yeah.
yeah, they would immediately know
they
when
would
it
know.
is.
I mean, it maybe just adding like a decal at tracks.
Wouldn't this be something Rob could do? When he gets back?
Or
Yeah,
make it a contest or something, you know, that somebody would design it.
Yeah. Boy, see signage. Signage is so important.
Yeah.
it sure
It
is.
really is, yeah,
You just don't want too many of them.
right.
Right.
And then to
The
have
fine
it be
line.
cohesive, to kind of all
Yeah.
Yeah.
look similar is important to it.
And they say, aha, we found it, you know, and it's right in front of them, but they didn't know there was a trail right there.
Yeah, and it could be added to trail maps that they, like the Upper Valley Trails Alliance could
Yeah.
have suggested parking. When we lived in England, we had a book called 244 Walks in the UK, in England, Scotland, and Wales. And every walk was a page in this loose leaf binder, but it always gave the place to park. and then the trail took off from, they were all on public footpaths, which they have all over the UK.
Mm,
And it was always where to park was included.
mm. Yeah, so I think that's important, people coming in, they have no idea where they are, and it
Yours-
keeps them,
You're saying these Ps that we've put around the town, there are 3 or 4 of them.
Mhm.
The ones where the rail trail is accessible should have this little thing hanging down below them.
yeah, or bolted to it,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Even a train.
Well,
with-
that's the sort of thing that we could propose to the town, and the town's gonna have to decide whether they wanna do that.
Because it's a destination, though.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I think we should propose it to Rob, and he could take it from
Yeah,
there.
there is a limit to what Lakeside Park should be responsible for. And when I see the town spending money willy-nilly, I'm thinking, why am I working so hard to raise dollars here and dollars there when they seem to have no end of largesse?
I think.
The other thing, hello?
Yes, David?
I have had some preliminary discussions at the end of, before winter came in, and some further thinking, seeing what the snowmobile signage has been, regarding signage on the rail trail that would direct people down the new ramp, and also to avoid, at least with a sign, the access where we don't want them going with that. How successful that will be, I don't know. I think that may require some Trail Bureau approval if we put in any permanent signs, but we'll resume working for them after a holiday break.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just go for it.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
I just got one more thing, and
Okay, go for it.
that steep area,
By the
With-
pavilion.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can convince the new owners of the rail trail there now to possibly come up with some ideas on it. They seem to have a lot of money, and they got a lot of,
You mean the Merrimack County people
Yeah,
that took
right.
over?
and
Well,
just
Libby
say,
Heim was mortified when I told her that we'd had this terrible problem with people just riding bikes and walking down and killing the grass and making,
yeah.
making a mess.
So it's gonna kind of reflect on them, and
Yeah.
possibly they can come up with some other ideas, and possibly get a state grant to the Trails Bureau to do that.
Yeah, for instance, signage, if they
Yeah,
did some
'cause
signage.
Because they can apply for the grants.
Mhm,
And,
that's a good point,
Well,
Deb.
As soon as they get back from the winter and Don Moyer is done with town budget stuff, which shouldn't be too much longer, that would be worthy of getting them back up and seeing what we're trying to do.
You mean get Alex Bernhardt, well, it's actually Alex's wife that's co-president of the, what is now Merrimack and Grafton County
Yeah.
Rail Trail.
And or Lindy, and Don Moyer, who's taking the lead on their maintenance committee. And obviously, Ken, you and I would be there, but
Well, Lindy's my point person. She was my neighbor in Wilmot, so
Mhm.
we know them. She's had dinner in my house.
But they may just plant some trees inside of our hair
Yeah.
at least. And,
Right.
I don't know. They seem to have some really
Yeah.
progressive people down there now.
So let's make this a positive thing and work together with them. I know Alex was there when we talked about the new access that Steve Patton built, and Alex was all for it. He said that's a perfect solution. The access ramp that comes down from the rail trail.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, there are people who are pig-headed and refuse to use it. Like the guy that had, the day we were there for the Christmas, the December 12th event, a guy came jogging down the rail trail with his headphones on, in his stretchy pants, lifted one, rope and came down, and then the second rope, and never broke his stride the whole time. Where he was coming from the village, it would have been so much easier just to come down
Mhm.
the new access.
And see, this is part of the teenage deal where I've got
Oh,
to
he
show
was
my
not a
buddy.
He was
teenager.
not a
He was
teenager.
not a teenager.
Yeah, no,
But
but. I
But if you
have-
look at the tracks in the snow, it's a small minority.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
But I have seen kids, they said, hey, but you can't do this, and they pedal up there and
I've
you can see
spoken
the
to a
path.
few of them.
So I want to ask a quick question. Ken's suggestion about an addition to existing signs, are we in any way directing that to the town? Do we need a motion? Do we?
What he's suggesting is we work with the Merrimack / Grafton County Rail Trail Group.
No,
For
that's
that, but those signs are not on the rail trail. Those signs are around town. So that was his first question, where we said maybe we should ask Rob. I'm just wondering if we're going to go ahead and do that in some
Well,
way.
then he followed it up and said, maybe we could get the rail trail people to do this.
Well, I think that
Well,
was an
that'd be the-
additional thing, Meredith.
No,
I
he
think
meant, he
It's
meant on
two
the
separate
trail.
projects.
it's Two
Yeah,
projects.
exactly.
With the train tracks. I don't think train tracks are gonna be clear enough.
All right, but I'm just saying, we kind of like didn't do anything with that suggestion. We moved on to the one where the
Hey,
the
I'm
new-
reluctant, excuse me, but I'm reluctant to take on any more responsibility.
I agree, and I don't think it should be
My
you.
original plan was to acquire the land and create a park.
All right,
If I-
Meredith, I'd like to suggest that we authorize Ken to ask Rob if there is some way those in-town signs could have something that directed people to parking, for rail trail.
Yeah, I don't think it's really gonna be, if you can design it and possibly make these things out of metal or something. That's all you can bolt it to the signs that are existing, just so people.
Would it make sense for him to talk to Rob Taylor if that's the person that we would, that
Well, I
would do?
don't mind talking to Rob, I just don't want it to come out of our budget. It's too hard to
No,
raise.
no, I know that. I'm just trying to, I think Ken brought something worthwhile to us, which might help come summer with parking, but we need to do something with it. And then the part two is where, I hear Dave and Ken and maybe Meredith and, contacting people who now own the rail trail about spending some money to put signs on the rail trail, right?
It wouldn't be really a sign, it'd be something that big maybe,
Okay.
showing a couple.
Do you see
tracks.
both, Ken, do you see both of these issues covered by the same?
No, I
Yeah,
think they're
same way.
separate.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
it's separate.
All right, well, do you want to vote on, do we need to vote on authorizing Ken to speak to Rob Taylor about adding signage?
I don't know that we need to vote, but we do need to ask him to do it.
Okay, but I want it made abundantly clear that it shouldn't come out of our budget. The town must have a sign budget.
Hmm.
Or maybe we do need a vote.
We have already bought our share of signs.
Ken, are you willing to do that?
I don't know where the funds have come from for that, but
Oh, I think we were suggesting it would be town money.
yeah, you need 100 of them, you need just a few of them, so.
Well, the one we bought for the dog swimming area cost $45 from the local guy. A tin sign like that.
Yeah, this
So
wouldn't be,
half the size, maybe $25.
this wouldn't be really a sign, it's just something put together to show like it's a railroad track. It wouldn't be on the back of any sign or anything or painted on, it'd be just something you screw into the.
I don't think a railroad. track-
Rob, it's certainly within Rob's capabilities, and if we ask him to, how the best way that he suggests funding, we can take it from there. We're not authorizing any expenditure at this point.
Okay, good point. All right, I can talk to Rob. And what the best visual symbol would be for additional. You're proposing putting this additional railroad tracks or whatever below the P signs,
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
still not going to take care of the people that are on the rail trail and wonder.
No, that's a separate issue. You've got two different jobs there. And I heard that maybe Dave and Ken, and we're going to talk to somebody who's now owns that section, right?
They may very well have a symbol or a sign that they
The rail
use
trail
on the
symbol.
rail
Mhm.
trail,
Yeah.
yeah, that we could just incorporate.
And that
Uh,
would be rail trail money.
Do they actually own the rail trail? I thought it
Manage it.
belonged to the Bureau of Rails and Transit out of
It
DOT.
it belongs to the New Hampshire DOT, administered by the Bureau of Trails, and delegation to us in the non-winter season and to the snowmobile clubs during the winter for maintenance and use.
So it still belongs to DOT Rails and Transit. Ken
Absolutely.
Barker, who's never gonna retire.
Okay,
Okay, I think we've got that sorted out. And I will email Lindy Heim. She's still getting email in Florida. Or wherever she is. Does anyone have anything else?
Next meeting, is it the first Tuesday in March? or
Yeah,
would
it's
it be the
normally
first?
first Tuesday.
It'd be March 1st.
Okay,
Does that work?
all right. The reason we pushed it ahead a week was last week, where this select board was on Tuesday and budget was on Wednesday.
Had enough to do.
you're a busy person.
Not for long, not for long.
Had
All
enough to
right.
retire and select
Do we
board.
need a motion to adjourn?
Make one.
I move we adjourn.
At 5:11, we are adjourned.
Eastern,
Second.
Eastern Standard Time. You better leave my comment about Massachusetts out of the.
Oh, yeah. I leave a lot of comments out.
We know where you're from.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't Vermont. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right. That map was C.